Hello, and welcome to She Leads Biotech, the podcast that celebrates women leaders in the bioscience space. I'm your host, Sharon Cox, CEO and Managing Director of CNA International, based right here in New York. And each week I'll be talking to women leaders about their work, their triumphs and challenges, providing invaluable insight into how women can unlock their superpowers and succeed on their own terms. So whether you're navigating your own career path in bioscience or you're passionate about science and innovation, I hope you're empowered and inspired by each episode. From aspiring doctor to biomedical engineer, from leading major recalls at Stryker to advising cutting-edge MedTech startups, today's guest has built her career at the intersection of science, strategy, and compliance. After realizing the unique regulatory challenges that small companies face, often with just one or two chances to get it right, she co-founded a consultancy dedicated exclusively to helping startups navigate the complex pathways to FDA approval. 5 years on, her firm has grown into a nimble, expert team, guiding innovators towards successful commercialization. So please welcome co-founder and CEO of Mittal Consulting, Kristen Mittal. Kristen, hello to you.
Hello. Hi, Sharon. Nice to be here. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for joining us. Where are you joining us from?
From Portland, Oregon, on the West Coast.
Very nice. I've actually never been to I've never been to Oregon, actually. Portland, definitely haven't been to. Is it mountain? Is it beach? Is it what is it?
Yeah, you have a little bit of everything. You have the mountains and the beach all within an hour's drive. So
Lovely.
very, very nice geography.
Excellent. And are you from there, or is it somewhere that you moved to?
We moved there. We were in Phoenix for 8 years, and then we moved here to Portland after that.
So you've always sort of been West Coast area, over that side of the country.
Yeah, I grew up in the Midwest, but then went to college and did some jobs in Phoenix, and then moved to Portland after that.
All right, excellent. So I'm intrigued with your story. Now, I know that you are a biomedical engineer. That's how you graduated from. How did you get involved in the bio space? Is it something you'd always wanted to do? Did you pick it? Did it pick you? What's your story?
Yeah, it's a little bit interesting. I think I really wanted to go and become a doctor, but my parents were like, nope, that's not the right path for you. You have to be an engineer because you're very good at math. So I said, okay, let's see. What's the closest thing to becoming a doctor while still checking that engineering box? It happened to be biomedical engineering. They had recently come out with, not too long ago, a degree like that. So I said, okay, I'm gaming the entire system. I'm going to become a biomedical engineer, just like that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I got.
And how did that work out?
Path.
I mean, did you enjoy the course? Was it what you expected? And I know nothing about biomedical engineering. So to me, it sounds as if it would be a room full of guys doing engineering sort of things, but that's not the case, right?
Yeah, that's actually not the case. I think there are more women actually pursuing biomedical engineering on average than men. I think a lot of them are pre-med, so eventually they do want to become a doctor, so that's a pathway they pursue. But it was pretty equal when I was going to college, 50-50 about men and women. And I would say the profession is good. You're kind of a jack of all trades, but an expert at nothing. So you get a little taste of everything across the board, but it's good. And people graduate with this, they usually go into quality or regulatory. I didn't know that at the time, or they go pre-med. There's a lot of different pathways you can go from it.
Okay, all right. So you finished, you graduated, you didn't do the pre-med route, obviously, because you'd already known that that's not where you were going. So what route did you take?
Yeah, while I was in college, I did quite a few internships at different places at small medical device manufacturers just to see what it was like to work in industry and get my feet wet. And I would say I got phenomenal experiences through that. I mean, it's one thing to learn things in school from a theory perspective. It's another thing to actually apply those things you learn and see how they play out in the real world. So I was very lucky. I was able to start in a quality position at a small company, get some experience there. And then after that, they said, well, our quality needs are pretty much finished because we're so small. but we've got a couple audits coming up. Would you like to help support us during these audits? I said, well, sure, why not? I'll go for that. So then it became a type of regulatory role, and I absolutely loved it. Between preparing for it and actually representing them in the audits, it was a phenomenal experience. And from that moment on, I was like, this is it. This is what I have to do with the rest of my life. So from there on out, I took regulatory positions after that.
So what is the regulatory route for those who might not be familiar because they're in a different field? Where does regulatory sit within the sort of system?
Yeah, so I'm going to talk specifically from the medical device side, but there's also drug, pharma, and biologic sides as
Yep.
well for regulatory, but that's my specialty, so I'll talk more to that side. So regulatory is really helping the companies maintain compliance with governmental agencies who are trying to get medical products or other types of regulated products on the market. So that means in the US, working with the FDA to make sure they've shown the FDA that their device is safe and effective and done all the testing to prove that, and tell that story to the FDA. And then work with the FDA to go through their questions until both parties are on the same page and the FDA is in agreement with the company that, yes, your device is safe and effective, you should be able to sell it, and then getting them that approval. But the fun doesn't stop there. There's ever continued compliance after that to make sure that once the product is still on the market, it continues to be safe. So more long-term trending of data to making sure, do we see any signals? Do we see any things that happen over 10 years that maybe we didn't see happen over 1 year, but is actually could be significant harm for the patient that we need to look into more? So in a nutshell, that's regulatory.
Okay. All right. So if there's anybody who's listening who's about to graduate with a biomedical engineering degree and is unsure, that we've just given you an option and told you what that would involve. Way
Yeah,
to go, you.
exactly. Yeah.
So what happened after that? Once you've done the internships, you now know that regulatory was the road you wanted to go down. What was your first foray into a regulatory role?
Yeah, so I started out after that, I started out as Stryker and did some regulatory compliance there. So on the post-market side, while I was there, it just happened to be I led one of the largest recalls in their history that they had had. So multi-million recall of pressure tourniquet cuffs. We had to then go and create systems to actually account for all of these different devices coming back and trending all of that. So that was a great experience into the compliance side. After that, I did quite a bit of work at Biotronic on more cardiology types of products, active high risk, so implantable pacemakers, defibrillators, catheters, stents, all of the above. I got incredible experience there and yeah, continued on from there.
Okay. And then 5 years ago, I think it's your 5th anniversary. Is it coming up or have we just missed it?
Yeah, so after that, I mean, I spent quite a bit of time at small, medium, and large companies. I just named a couple of them. But when I was working at all of these different companies, I saw that there was really a difference in how these different size companies were able to utilize and have regulatory influence their overall strategy. So at the larger companies, I could see that they had more than enough time and resources to be able to throw at pretty much any problem till it initially solved.
Yep.
And so that was good for them to be able to continue to grow. But that was not always the case for the startups because they were always cash strapped, always had many constraints on their plates. So actually in the startup case, when they were the ones developing usually the most novel products, they generally had 1 or 2 chances to get it right from the beginning and pick an optimal regulatory pathway. And if not, I saw it happen many times that the product would just cease to go forward because of regulatory constraints.
Right.
From seeing all these different experiences, that's why I decided to open Mittal Consulting. And it's just been 5 years this month, actually. So that's a pretty big milestone for us to have achieved. So we're very excited about that. But so we specifically work with startups only to help them get through more complicated and challenging regulatory strategies in the effort that more of these startup medical devices can be successful and we can get more novel products on the market.
Okay. So you set up Mittal Consulting. Your co-founder is also your husband, I believe, and you started it during COVID.
Yes.
Yeah.
You put it all together.
Nice easy time. Nice easy time. How did you get through that without killing each other or ending up in the divorce courts or something? Because, me and the cat were barely getting on during COVID, so God knows what other people were doing. How was that for you? Must have been a really challenging time.
Well, COVID happened to be a boon time for medical device industry
Okay.
because there was tons of COVID tests coming through, tons of diagnostic tests. So the industry was actually overwhelmed in terms of the number of applications they had to do. So we had quite a bit of work going on during that time. Just started off really, really fast
Excellent.
because of that.
Okay. All right. Then kind of, obviously as COVID came to an end and there wasn't quite, I guess, so much demand for the regulatory within the vaccine field, how did you progress through? What was your strategy for kind of keeping the consulting firm going and thriving?
Yeah, well, at the beginning, it was just myself running it as an independent consultant. But then, I worked on quite a few projects and kept wanting to bring on more, and just didn't have the capacity to be able to take on all the people I wanted. So we actually just had to grow the team over the last 5 years. So at that point, when we started growing, I persuasively convinced my husband that, hey, please come help us with this. We need your help. And he agreed to do it. And I'm so happy he did because he's been phenomenal in terms of being able to get more visibility, help us grow, and help bring on customers and have them have a good experience when they come onto our company as well. So it's worked out really well working together. I think, not every couple is suited to work together, but we happen to be. It's like working with my best friend, so it's
Right.
the best thing.
Bless. And what's his background?
Yeah, he actually has no regulatory in his background. He comes from a completely different perspective, product development and product marketing. So he has worked in 7 other industries, and this is his 8th industry he's working in. And he told me it's his favorite so far. So
Okay.
he likes the group of people, but it's great because he brings a different perspective. So we don't have tunnel vision. We don't have one perspective. We're coming in this with, okay, let's take all the wisdom from all the other industries and also apply it to this specific niche medical device industry.
Okay. Which is great, isn't it? When it's, if you're sitting in a room and everybody's from the same field and the same area, you're kind of getting the same perspective. So to have somebody coming in with a completely different perspective on or a completely different take on something opens the field so much more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Cool. So talk to me about the service that you offer to your customers and what differentiates you from other things that they could do. There are other options.
Sure. I think we're one of the few firms that exclusively cater to startups. So that means every startup coming on our plate is our priority. There's no one who has a higher priority than the customers that we have. So we're very, I would say, specific in who we take on, but when we do take them on, it's a very long-term relationship we're creating because we know we're going through the complex regulatory strategies. We have a lot to develop and it's going to be a long journey together. So with our clients, it's usually at least a several year relationship, but can go for 8 or 9 years in
Okay.
terms of all of the regulatory hurdles they'll have to get through and helping them through that. And then we just have a very nimble and very efficient team, I would say. So we have some phenomenal in-house regulatory specialists who do just amazing writing and telling that story. It's really about communication. Regulatory is. So being able to tell a really good story to the FDA where everything makes sense, everything's there, and it's at the technical level that's required for the FDA to satisfy all their concerns. So being able to tell that story and communicate between the FDA and between the client back and forth until all conflict is resolved, I would say that's the bread and butter of the best regulatory affairs specialist, the one who can do that. So we have our writers, and then we also have our ex-FDA consultants and subject matter experts. So our specialists know what they know and know what they don't know. So they know when to phone a friend, basically,
Right.
to be able to get that additional insight that's going to be able to help the client get to where they need to go. So we work very cohesively as a team like that.
And your client selection process? I would imagine because you are going to be having this relationship for quite some time, I would imagine, because it's the same in my own business because of the companies that I work with, it's really important that you're on the same page from the outset with a clear
Yeah.
understanding of what their expectations are and their clear understanding of what your deliverables are. And does that process take? And have you walked away from situations and thought we're not a good fit, we're not a good match?
So it's an evolving process, right? Because, the client's needs at one point will change as new information comes in, as the climate changes, as lots of things, if competition changes on the market. So strategies will change. That's kind of our point, is to go along with the client on their journey and adapt our strategy. Because I think a lot of people think regulatory is pretty fixed. Maybe you have one pathway. Usually for these startups, that's definitely not so. They usually have a lot of different pathways they can follow. So it's figuring out what is the optimal pathway for them specifically, which is very different for a small company versus a large company versus different types of product types. Once you start thinking about commercialization and reimbursement, that will influence it as well. So making sure we have all the key stakeholders at the table to begin with to really understand the company and know what their priorities are and what direction they're heading. So
Right.
we can support that and build it up instead of be a deterrent and make their life more difficult.
Okay. And I guess help them determine the right timing, because particularly as they go into later stage, through phase 3 and start thinking about commercialization, at what point do you bring on who, where, when? I would imagine that that's a big part of the sort of consultation to make sure that it's, because you bring people on too early and you're burning through a runway of money,
Yeah.
bring them on too late and you miss opportunities. So is that very much part of the service that you offer on that recommendation as to when to bring in team members and when not?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We've definitely given advice on that. Just because you're right, it's all about timing, doing
Mm-hmm.
the right things at just the right time
Yep.
with the right people who are going to help you be successful. So that is, although it's not exclusively regulatory, that's a path we definitely navigate with them every day as well, because it's
Excellent.
important.
Okay. And what about you? What have you found? I don't just want to label it as a woman. Doing Mittal Consulting was your first foray into leading a company. You started as a sole consultant. You've built it out. How many staff do you have now?
Yeah, we have 8 full-time right now and 14 part-time.
Cool.
So, and we've
Excellent. So
been
you're
growing. Yeah.
growing through. What challenges have you found building this company from scratch effectively? Where have you found the biggest challenges to be?
Yeah, I mean, every day is a challenge because
Tell me about it. I know.
it's not knowing what you don't know, right?
Yep.
I think that's the most challenging part. Once you know it, in hindsight, everything seems very simple and straightforward and obvious. But until you know it, that's difficult. So I would say just that every time we grow, right? Those are growing pains. So those are difficult too. It's not like the job is more complicated, it's just growing, right? How do we scale? How do we continue to be efficient at larger sizes and
Yep.
continue to deliver the same level of quality to every customer, right? So these are questions we're always asking to make sure, no matter what our size, we have the best quality for all of our clients every time. So those are challenges. But I would say, having a group of mentors, so we have quite a few between my husband and myself and our network who are really supporting us and helping us. And because we're also not the first ones to grow a company, right? There's
Yep.
been many out there who have done it very successfully. So
Yep.
being able to network with them and have their words of wisdom has really been incredibly helpful for us in this journey.
And I think, again, that's important to recognize it, recognize, I don't know what I don't know, and find those people who do know,
Yeah.
and have those in your group and as part of your network is the way through. What have you found the most enjoyable part about running your company?
By far, it's the people. The people we work with, both our clients, are phenomenal. They're just amazing people with these grand visions, and they're going to make them happen, even though they also don't know what they're doing, but they're figuring it out along the way. So they're taking huge risks on their part to really be able to bring these devices they know are going to change many, many people's lives to the market, despite all odds, because it's challenging to run a medical device startup, very challenging. So that would be one side. And then the other side of the people is our employees. They just amaze me every day in terms of how quickly they're able to grow. I continue to throw new challenges at them every day, and they step up and they take them. So that's just personally been one of my favorite things, is just over the short span to see them grow so much as well.
Okay, all right. And I believe you also get to do some travel. You've got a conference coming up soon, haven't you?
Yeah, we travel quite a bit just because we want to see our clients at conferences, and we want to meet new potential clients as well and make sure we stay up to date with the industry and everything that's going on. So there's a little bit of break for summer before conference season starts again. But the next one coming up is going to be MedTech Vision.
Okay.
And that's led by MedTech Women. That's going to be coming up on September 9th in Menlo Park. So very excited to go to that one as well.
And will you be speaking at that? Are you taking part in it in any way, or are you an attendee just seeing what the scene is?
Yeah, at this one, I'm an attendee, but I'm on their subcommittee for board development. So they have a lot of great initiatives. So, especially women who are listening to this podcast should be aware of this organization if they are in the medtech space.
Okay.
Because they do a lot of great work connecting other women together in the space, and have a lot of great initiatives. The one I'm on is the board of development. So trying to get more women on medtech boards and boards in the community. So they have a lot of great videos they have on their website walking through all the basics of how to think about it, how to do it. And they continually do programming throughout the year for in-person events to get more dialogue on this and on some of the really complicated topics like what is liability on a board and how do you deal with it. So it's a great organization.
Okay. And what's the name of the organization again?
Yeah, MedTech Women.
MedTech Women. And is it national? It's a national group? It's not just
Yeah,
in Oregon, it's a national group, right?
oh, it's not actually in Oregon. It's more based out of the Bay Area, but
Okay.
we have membership nationally. Absolutely.
Excellent. Okay. So that's definitely something for listeners who are in the medical devices space to reach out. And I'll get the website address from you, and maybe we'll put that out along with the episode so that people will know who they can reach out to.
Yeah,
So what's
absolutely.
next for you? What are your plans for Mittal?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we want to continue to grow so we can continue to support more clients and have our startups be more successful, because I'm sure you know 90% of startups are going to fail, and we really want to change that statistic, especially because these are some of the most cutting edge technologies as well. So helping them navigate the biggest challenges, regulatory, reimbursement, we'll see what other challenges we can help them with in the coming years so that they can be successful.
Okay.
That's our goal.
All right. And what would you, that actually reminded me of a question I had. Thank God I wrote it down so I was able to find it. What would your advice be for small companies who are looking to build sort of long-term regulatory strategies?
For smart companies, yes, definitely hire an experienced consultant or consultancy firm and get the strategy down from the beginning,
Yep.
and ask your firm not just for one potential pathway, but what are all my potential pathways available? Because usually there's more than one, and make sure that they help you understand what is the risk benefit of each pathway and how does that integrate with my overall commercialization strategy, and from that decide which pathway to take. Don't ever let regulatory dictate what pathway. It should be a conversation between commercialization, reimbursement, and regulatory all together. And from that unanimous decision, you should pick a pathway forward so that you're not having conflict between different departments in terms of strategy, and you're picking the best strategy for the company. Sometimes that means it's the more complicated regulatory strategy, but that means the difference of getting on the market and being able to sell at a amount that's sufficient to keep the company in business or not, you
Right.
see.
Okay. And I know that you're in the medtech space, but do you have an opinion on where you're seeing the greatest regulatory disruption?
Yeah, for us, it's across the board. I would say the biggest fields would be Neurology is big. Surprisingly, ophthalmology is big for us. Cardiology has always been. People are always innovating in that space. It's pretty well developed. But AI SAMD maybe is the biggest one right now. Everyone wants to put AI in their products because no one wants to be left behind. So that's one aspect. And then the other aspect is there are phenomenal AI products that are coming out now that are really going to help decrease some physician burnout, hopefully, and help be more accurate and consistent for many different types of screening and diagnoses. So that's very exciting as well.
But it's very scary still, isn't it? AI. I mean, it is to me. And I'm
Yeah.
being very good, and I do use it, but I've just realized that Chat GPT has now got a version 5, which literally came up on my system yesterday. And it's now thinking more for longer.
Yeah.
If you could allow me 60 minutes to put that together for you, I'll do that. And will that suffice? Or would you prefer me to give, basically, I can give you any old rubbish now, immediately. Or if you wait an hour while I figure it all out. And I just thought, oh, Lordy, that's it. I appreciate that everybody wants to be part of the AI thing and doesn't want to be left behind. But what are the challenges that go along with that, of wanting to sort of be in that space?
Yeah. Well, I would say from an FDA perspective, they definitely review each of them with pretty high level of rigor right now because
Okay.
they're coming from the same point of view of, there's a lot that's not controlled or understood here. So we need to do extra testing and be extra cautious before we roll these types of systems out and potentially come to conclusions that are not necessarily correct, right? So there's quite a higher bar for the level of review of AI devices compared to other types of devices. But yeah, even no matter how much testing we do, there's still going to be some issues for
Mm,
some devices once they hit the market. And we've already seen that occasionally too, where from a purely testing perspective, it all looked fine. But actually, once they get on the market, there was legal issues and other
yep.
types of issues that the companies hadn't even anticipated. So being cognizant and constantly having these conversations to figure it out and being very cautious once they get rolled out is important for sure. But the benefit is, while many of these algorithms on the medical device side may have been developed through AI, once they do get onto the market, they are in what's called a locked algorithm. So they're not just going to continuously spin out and create new versions without control. So that is the version control process is a very important part of the medical device development process as
Right.
well.
Okay. That makes me feel a bit better.
Yeah.
So, what would your top tip be for a new founder or a founder who's maybe new to the regulatory space and hasn't got to that yet? What would your top tip to them be?
Yeah, if they're very interested in getting into regulatory or just about to get into regulatory, it's definitely a lot more competitive space now than when I, kind of fell into it back when I was in college. Simply because there's a lot of different universities offering degrees for it now, and people know about it. So I would say there's competition, but if you can make yourself a really strong writer and really understand the regulations, you'll cut through all the competition because being able to eloquently tell a story is still a very challenging thing to do and is for a unique skill set as well. It's not suited for everyone. So focusing on that, and then all the information for regulatory is publicly available. FDA is one great in that they publish everything on their website. It's there, it's available. So technically there's really no barrier to being able to learn the information. It's just sitting down and taking the time to do it.
And it's, if there's a founder of a medical device company that is new to the whole sort of regulatory affairs aspect, because maybe they haven't come from that, they've been an inventor of a device or something, what would your tip to them be?
Yeah, well, they should start out with a regulatory strategy report to understand their different options, what the landscape at the current moment looks like, and what pathways they have available. And then in addition to that, that should be done just about at design freeze, because sometimes regulatory can have influence in terms of the device design. to make it a less complicated pathway and less burdensome. So that's oftentimes very, very useful for them too. So definitely get that. In today's age, get a reimbursement assessment as well. Multiple regulatory options, you're going to want to narrow those down based off of reimbursement. That's going to be how you're going to want to figure out what's the most optimal pathway for the company, because an FDA review approval does not at all oftentimes now correlate to reimbursement approval, because FDA is looking for safety and efficacy in their reviews. Reimbursers are looking for value. So if you have 50 other products on the market that do the same thing, why would they pay for yours too, right? So trying to collect that data as well against your competition and showing your value is very important.
What do you see as your biggest challenge as a business owner within regulatory affairs? What do you see as the challenge over, say, the next 5 years?
The challenge over the next 5 years, well, there's lots of challenges.
What's going to be your biggest challenge over the next 5 years that you think that you're getting ready for?
Yeah, I would say definitely the industry is a little consolidated right now in the fact that there's less investment money going into medtech space. So it's ever more challenging for our founders to be able to get the investment money to be able to do their testing and go to next steps. So the bar for them in terms of presentation and having everything buttoned up is higher than ever. So our challenge will be to continue to figure out how to support them to present themselves even better and get to the point even quicker and be even more efficient in how they do their testing so that they can continue to weather this more challenging environment.
So helping them with speed and efficiency.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So I'm guessing from our conversation that you don't sit and regret that you didn't take the pre-med route and that you're very happy in the sector that you're in.
Very, very happy. I would say this profession's not for everyone, but definitely for a personality type like mine. And it's been the time of my life so far.
Excellent. And obviously many more years of it still to come.
Yeah.
Oh,
Exactly.
brilliant. Well, listen, Kristen, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you today. Thank you for joining us. I've learned a lot about regulatory that I didn't know before. So it's always great for me to be schooled in these particular areas. So I appreciate that. And please stay in touch. I look forward to seeing how Mittal Consulting continues to grow and evolve, and look forward to seeing how things progress.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, Sharon. I really appreciate what you're doing here. I think this is great to hear many different women's voices and about their journeys, because it helps inspire each other and help each other understand that, what may seem very odd to you, we are actually all really having a lot of the similar types of events happening. And then it becomes more understandable that it's not us, it's us collectively, not just me personally.
Absolutely. And I think, that's always been my view of doing this show. If whatever is discussed, if it reaches just one person and as a result that one person does something that works for them, then it's been worthwhile. So I appreciate your input into it. Thank you very much indeed. And enjoy your weekend. Have a fabulous weekend and continue on with the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much, Sharon. You too.
Take good care. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Well, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. She Leads Biotech is brought to you by CNA International USA, a woman-owned boutique search firm based in New York. If you're looking to hire talent for your company or want support in achieving your career goals, please reach out to me at contact@cnaint.com. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. And remember, the success of every woman should be an inspiration to another. So don't be afraid to share yours. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.